Today I'm checking out NICKREDPACK drums. This is a new company from the Netherlands, and this is their first drum plugin. This one's called DS Drum RCS Essentials, and it's not exactly the catchiest name for a plugin, but it sounds good, so let's check it out. The main drum samples in this are from DS Drums, which is a company in Italy. They're a small boutique drum manufacturer and have some pretty unique stuff, some interesting wood choices, and looks like high-end custom drums, and they're a company that I've never heard of, so who doesn't like that? So let's hear how this sounds in a full mix, and I'm just going to record some random drum parts, and I'll edit them together later into a song and put some guitars on top, and we're going to play that right now. This is a Kontakt library, but it's compatible with the free Kontakt player, so you don't need to buy anything extra. And the plugin itself has a built-in mixer and effects, EQ, and lots of stuff. So we'll take a little bit of a look at the mixing later, but first, I've got a preset that I dialed in. I played through a whole bunch of the presets, and there's some cool stuff in there, but none of it quite spoke to me, so I just decided to make my own, and that gave me an idea of how it works mixing in the plugin, because this preset doesn't use any extra plugins. I've just got a little bit of master, compressor, and limiter on everything, but all the individual EQ and effects, which there isn't even very much of, is all done on the drums. It's mainly getting the levels right, getting the pan right, so it fits my kit. I'm pretty particular, but I think it sounds really good now, and I'm happy with it, and it feels good to play. So let's do that. Next, let's check out a sampling of the factory presets. As I mentioned, this is their first Kontakt library, and I think it's a pretty solid entry for a first full library. I think the samples themselves sound great. The drums sound great. I like a lot of the things in the plugin. There's some cool UI stuff. You can easily change tuning. The UI looks good. You can see what the drums look like. It's easy to pick stuff, even though it's a little non-standard in terms of the layout. I found it easy to navigate around. The one thing that was a pain that I ended up giving up on was routing out multiple outputs, which I typically always do. I'll have all the drums going to separate mics, just as if you were recording an acoustic kit, you'd have separate inputs for everything. I like to have it so I can easily mix my kick drum with whatever EQ, whatever compression I want. It was a bit of a pain, and it would be nice to have like a built-in multi-out button, like most do, that's just set to, your default routing, and you can change it if you want. But for most people, just a kind of typical multi-out routing setting that you can just click a button and it does it for you, and you can tweak it if you want, because I rarely end up tweaking it, but in this case I had to do it myself, and it was kind of a pain. And everything is separate, so like the close mic, the overheads, but if I want the overheads and the close mic both on one snare channel, I have to go and route both of those on different pages. It's not the end of the world, but it was kind of a pain. I'd probably bother with it if I was going to mix a whole mix, which I will probably have included a demo song in this, and maybe I have done that for that mix, but I haven't done it yet, so I don't know. I like the variety of the presets. There's a lot of different styles, and everything loads up quickly, which is nice. I didn't find many or really any of the presets that were like awesome in my book. Now, some of that depends on maybe how I have my kit set up, my personal taste. Sometimes the velocities on different pads make the whole mix feel kind of off, like the cymbals are too quiet or too loud. And some of that may have to do with my kit. I've got it set up a certain way, but it works with other drum plugins. I ended up tweaking some of my velocities to make it work better with this. It's not that my kit isn't set up well. It's that it's not set up the way this plugin wants exactly. And there is a universal sensitivity slider that can make everything softer or louder, which is a cool feature. I like that, though there's no way to turn it off. And there's also no individual velocity controls. So if you take a look at something like Slate drums or Hertz drums, both of those have pretty detailed velocity controls for each drum. And Hertz has different presets for the whole thing, whether you want it to be more compressed or less compressed dynamics. This didn't have any of that. It just had the overall loudness. But I'm also not sure exactly, is that just raising all the velocity levels? Is it compressing the velocity? There's a few things it could be doing, and I'm not sure which it is. There's also no manual for this that I could find online, so like figuring out the routing stuff was kind of a pain. There's an FAQ on the website, but not a full-on manual that I saw. Maybe that's coming. What I would like to see in future updates of this would be more control over the velocity, and some quality of life features like having easy multi-out routing options built in. A few other little technical things I did find when playing something especially noticeable with like the snare, or some of the cymbals. It seems to jump kind of from quiet to loud in terms of velocity, and maybe there wasn't as fine of a gradation of velocities as I would like. So sometimes the playing felt a little off, like it sounded louder than I hit it, or it sounded quieter than I hit it, and it was just a little inconsistent in terms of the velocity layers. Didn't feel quite perfect. The only other odd thing I noticed was the ride bell doesn't cut off when you hit the ride. So if you're doing like a ride pattern and hitting the bell for accents, the ride bell is going to keep ringing out the whole time. Whereas on a real cymbal, the ride bell would kind of die out as soon as you hit the cymbal again somewhere else. So that was a bit odd. Just clearly was like two separate layers and they weren't interacting at all. That could be fixed, I'm sure, in the same way most hi-hats are. If you have an open hi-hat and then you close the pedal, obviously the open hi-hat would get cut off. That's a pretty basic thing that's been around forever. So that just needs to be done with the ride bell. As far as kit pieces, there's 3 sets of shells. And so there's only 3 kicks, but there's 3 beaters for each one. So there's wood, felt, and wool beaters. So 9 variations of the kicks. And then there's 10 snares. There's a lot of cool snares in this, and that's probably the strong suit of this. There's a bunch of different snares with a variety of different tones, and they all sound cool and pretty unique. There's some definitely interesting snares in there. So I love that variety. The cymbals are all good. No complaints there. There's 2 sets, but I liked the cymbals, so that's good. There's some kind of unique effects in the mixer. They're nice. Like there's a parallel compression. There's some saturation options just built in there. Pretty interesting EQ that I haven't seen one like it before. And it's kind of weird interface, but I like it. I guess it's different. It took a second to figure out what it is, but it works and it sounds fine. And the interface is different and kind of cool. So I like that. All in, I think it's high quality samples, good drums, and a pretty good plugin. I think there was some room for improvement in some areas, but that could always be done with future updates. I think the sounds are good, and the overall product is there and is a pretty solid one. So good job. You know, it's their first drum plugin, first full Kontakt library. So yeah, it's cool. It's different. I like the snares a lot. And another thing the company offers is trigger packs. So if you have Slate Trigger, you can get different packs of instruments for Slate Trigger that are a lot cheaper. So if you like some of the instruments here and you want to use them in Trigger, that's also an option. Well, I hope you enjoyed checking out RCS drums. This framing is not very comfortable on my neck, and I'm in a lot of pain. So I'm going to wrap this up. And yeah, like and subscribe, all that. Thanks for watching. See you later.